everybody. I'm Rick Dancer. Welcome to Get Real with Rick Dancer. And if you guys want to have some fun today, share this on your page right now. Now is the time to just go up to the top, click the little buttons, and share this. If you're on YouTube, you can share it off to other people on your page, because believe it or not, we found someone in Eugene who supports ICE. I know, not just ICE in their coffee and not just ICE in their soda drinks, but the ICE agents that people in Minnesota are going bonkers over, people trying to do their job and being held back from that. So anyway, Benny, that's not his real name, contacted me asking for a little advice because a TV station wanted to talk to him. And I said, I don't know if I'd do that. And so we have put him undercover. He's got glasses on and a hoodie and all that, because here's the bottom line. I know what you people do to me that don't like me. I've seen how you've tried to destroy my business. I've seen how you've taken clients from me, and you really have. And that's fine, because I'm nearly retired. But I know how vicious you can be. And so I told Benny, for your own protection, I think you need to cover up a little bit and change your name. And we're not going to talk about where you work or anything like that, because people are ruthless there and they will take you out just because you disagree with them. And it's so weird in a town like Eugene, Oregon, where, back when I moved there 30 some years ago, it was like everybody's, hippies and love fest and regular people, and everybody just do what you're going to do. It's no big deal. And now it's a place where if you disagree with the cultural narrative, you'll end up in the Eugene Weekly as the biggest dick for 2025. I mean, even though for me, that was quite an honor. I don't mind, as a man, being called the biggest dick in Lane County. I'll gladly take that position, but that's what happens to people. So tonight we're going to talk to Benny, and he's going to tell you an interesting story and why he supports ICE. And I'd love to get your guys' comments too. And if you have questions for Benny, if you're an anti-ICE person, that's fine. You can drink your Pepsi without ice. We don't care, or your Coke, whatever. But be nice when you ask the questions, because here on our page, we really do believe in diversity, and that, what Martin Luther King stood for, that judge people by their character, not by the color of their skin. And just for your information, white really is a color. So you don't get to be racist towards white people either. That means all brown people, red people, black people, white people, and if I'm missing any other colors, you all belong here, and you can all play here. Our sponsor tonight, as always, Dr. Michael Bratland. If you guys are looking for a dentist who cares about all the things we just talked about and believes that you should have the right, Dr. Bratland has guts. I mean, he's put up billboards in town, and we support, we back the blue, all kinds of stuff, made so many people angry. But he also made a whole lot of police officers, sheriff deputies, and ICE agents very happy. So let's get on to our show. I'm going to bring our guest on. This is Benny, and not Benny and the Jets, just Benny. Benny, thank you for joining us tonight.
Hey, thanks for having me, Rick.
So one of the TV stations put out a notice and said, hey, we want you to, we're looking for somebody who supports ICE. You thought about doing it. You contacted him and then kind of backed off, and you wrote me and asked my advice. And I said, how about if I just put you on and let you tell your whole story, instead of having a TV station cut you up and make you say just the one thing that they want you to say. So I just said, let's bring you in.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. So the local news station had written a big article about Veterans for Peace, a local organization that is more Antifa-like than representative of any veterans. And they'd written an article about it and how they opposed ICE. And I just thought, well, that's not a very good representation for veterans at all. I know plenty of veterans that support the immigration and customs enforcement, including myself. So they said, who wants to talk about it? And I kind of spoke before I thought, and just instinctually kind of raised my hand, and they invited me down to the station, like you said. And boy, then I thought, well, maybe this is a bad idea. They're going to put me on screen, ask me a bunch of super biased questions, and then try to beat me up and bully me. But more than that, after seeing how other conservatives get edited, I wasn't interested in having my story edited or my interview edited. And put out into the public that way. I have a wife and a family. I live in Eugene, Springfield. I don't need to be on the Willamette Weekly. I don't need
to be a big dick like me.
We could be big swinger dicks, but we don't need to be on the cover of the Eugene Weekly. There's nothing positive to come from that. So
you said you had an altercation, and it wasn't, it's just a weird thing happened to you at the Veterans Hospital there in Eugene. Tell that story, Benny.
Okay. So Rick, it was a week and a half ago. I took my dad, I'll just call him my dad because he's raised me since I was 9. But my dad is a 100% disabled veteran. And I'm also a disabled veteran. Operation Iraqi Freedom, I was in from 98 to 04, and then 2 years of reserve after that. Oregon National Guard, regular Army, and reserve.
Okay.
I get my health care at the VA. I don't qualify for any kind of Medicare, Medicaid. I can get some overpriced insurance through an employer. It's very expensive and very poor coverage. Anyways, I get seen at the VA. My dad gets seen at the VA. We go to the VA hospital or VA clinic here in Eugene to get services. And it never even crossed my mind that the Veterans for Peace and these Antifa types with their, protest signs with frogs, I didn't think they'd be at the gate of the VA hospital. I know they're at the federal building. I know they're downtown. But at the front of the hospital made no sense. And I would say over half for sure were just straight anti-Trump and fascist signs that had nothing to do with
the same people,
anything. Yeah, same folks. So I was noticing they were mostly middle-aged white women, kind of fit a certain maybe demographic, except one guy, very distinct guy wearing a Vietnam veteran's hat. And I don't know why I took note of him, but I noticed he was out there as a veteran. And I just thought, how after taking an oath to the Constitution and living that life, how could you not have some compassion or support for other federal employees like immigration, like ICE, right? Yeah, exactly. Thank you. So we go in and get our services. I fill some prescription. Dad does his appointment. On our way out, I see this same gentleman standing next to the truck.
Your truck.
My truck when we pulled in. And I thought, that's not right. Well, what he was doing was getting in his little car, and he got in his car and drove right at us as if he was trying to posture or intimidate us. I mean, it would be a little dramatic to say weaponizing, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. He drove the car straight for us and then stopped right before he hit us. And he pokes his head out of his window, rolls it all the way down, and says, I didn't realize there was a sidewalk here, almost to make it as if it would be an accident if he were to hit me and my disabled father. What? And one thing I hadn't told you that was kind of comical is I kind of tried to throw it back on him because they're all into their feelings and stuff, right? It's all about feelings and no actual common sense or policy or fact or anything. So I just told the guy, don't yell at me, you'll hurt my feelings, and tried to throw that at him. And of course, he just screamed like a banshee and pulled out of there. But I thought, how could one veteran treat another veteran that way? How could the Veterans Administration allow protesters to park there? There was just many things that didn't make sense to me.
Hey Benny, hold on just a second. Thomas Zoll. Let me ask you, Thomas, a question. So you asked Benny if he's a Proud Boy. So meaning one of the Proud Boys. Why is that the first question that you have, asshole? Why would you even ask that? Like, that's where you're coming from. And you say, this guy's bucking for a job with ICE, maybe EPD. Do you guys have to have a reason all the time to discredit people because you have
Can I say
nothing
something
else?
right now? Can I say something just right now? I would love to work for ICE. I'm not bucking for that position because of my combat experience. I'm disabled and I'm not able to, but I have a career here locally that pays as much or more than that. So it doesn't have anything to buck for position or socioeconomic status or affiliation with anybody. I'm just a veteran that believes that veterans should be prioritized over immigrants. That's all.
Okay, so somebody else wrote on here. So why does he have a hood on? Okay, let me explain to you. So
Please.
I was concerned for Benny's safety because I know how many assholes are out there. So I said, you need to be disguised. I want you to get some sunglasses, a hat, and get a hoodie on. So he's doing this. First of all, fuck you, asshole. Thomas, you're on my page and I can block you and just throw you out of here. You're obviously a very small man and you don't have a lot going for you. And Thomas, let me ask you, why is it bad for according to statistics today, and I'm sure you don't believe them because they're not your statistics, but the statistics today from the government say that 70% of the people being picked up are rapists, pedophiles, sexual predators. So do you want to keep those kind of people in our country? You're okay with that? Yeah, you're okay with that? Good. Then that's what you should support, but not the rest of us don't. And so I don't get where you guys are coming. You guys sound like a bunch of fucking babies. You really do. Absolute babies. You think I'm ridiculous, Thomas? I think you're a wimp. Oh, God. Now you got me name calling. So Benny, when you look at this stuff, like what's going on in Minnesota, what do you think?
So I really feel for the ICE agents. And until you've been in those shoes and have taken that oath and stood in a situation like that, you don't know how you'll react. Clearly, nobody understood how Miss Good would react or the agent. And I apologize for forgetting his name off the top of my head, but it's super chaos. That's the intention of the agitators. They want to see this. The ICE agents definitely need a little more compassion and a little bit more leash. They need to be allowed to do their job.
So Thomas just said on here that I'm lying. So 2.5% of those arrested are criminals. And then somebody else
all criminals by definition. They're all criminals. However, the actual statistic for our region on that sample size was 70-30, being only, I mean, if you really want to say 30% of them weren't criminals, which is also inaccurate because 30% of them are only here criminally.
Well, the other thing is KVAL did a poll the other day, and KVAL's, I mean, this is Eugene. I mean, this is like left-wing center of the United States. And they did a poll, and I think they had 4,000 people at the time. I'd seen some results. And 85% of them said they didn't think we should be a sanctuary state. And yet here's these people like Thomas and others. Somebody else was on here. Oh, true. Cite your source. It was on KVAL News, True. And that's what's interesting. True, you came on here and said, Benny, we're having some fun now. You said, why don't you debate people? What? All you guys do is cite your source. You don't ever say anything. Why don't you debate me? You never have an answer. You never tell me, why is it okay for people who come here illegally to stay here? And then if you've been here for 2 decades illegally, so you've been hiding here for 2 decades and you're caught, and some of you people say, well, then they should be allowed to stay. Why? Because you broke the law for 20 years? I mean,
my favorite one is the same people that are doing these protests, that are fighting out and speaking out against ICE, typically aren't the highest earners. Not that that matters. I'm not discriminating, but they're not the highest earners. And they're not the business owners. They're not the people that are supporting the community at all. So, but yet they're missing the whole financial impact of the state of what's being taken away from the veterans and other Americans within our community. How many veterans and other community members are unhoused, unfed, can't get any help at all because it's the $185 billion nationally that's going to support criminally illegal aliens.
Well, look what they did in New York City, where they put up criminal illegal aliens and illegal people in high-class hotels, while our U.S. service veterans are on the streets of New York City and every other city in this country in drug addicted and in horrible positions. These are people who fought for our country, not a bunch of pussies who stand out there with signs and scream at people and throw water bottles at them. And
no, they signed an oath. They signed an oath to the Constitution. They went to basic training. They went to advanced training. They went to duty stations. Many of them went to war. Many of them were faced with kill or be killed in situations where you had 8-year-old children that you had to kill because they were out too late at night. Did anybody protest that? No.
What about the girls that were raped and murdered? And Biden and the Democrats in Congress wouldn't even stand up to acknowledge them. And here they make Renee Good, which I'm sorry that she died, but she did something stupid. And then they make up stories about it. You know, she doesn't have a widower. The woman who's her partner, they're not married, so she's not technically her widow. And now they're going to start questioning her. So it's just absolutely crazy. True, and whoever the other Thomas, I gave you my sources. Gentlemen, I told you
which source do they want?
And also, it was Homeland Security that was issuing. I heard it on the radio today. They were talking to people giving out the statistics. So maybe you don't believe my statistics, but where are yours? Where did you get your 2.5% of the people being arrested in the country are criminals? Where did you get your statistics? That's where it's interesting because, cite the link. This is where you don't want to debate. You're a bunch of pansies who come on here and say, you cite your study, but I don't have to cite mine. You come up and you know what? Fuck you. I'm not going to play your game, but I'm also not going to take you off of here because I think every person out there needs to see how ridiculous and ignorant you really are. You guys do the best job for me of anything I have to do. And you call me names, douchebag. Oh yeah. All those things like you did in junior high. Yeah, whatever. Hey,
here's the deal. If you can't stand behind ICE, then stand in front of them.
Yeah. Just get out of the way because most of the country wants this to happen. We're tired of my statistics, anywhere from 10 to 20 million illegal immigrants living in this country. And I know, but you know what bothers me the most is I have a ton of friends who are legal immigrants and they had to go through the process, a long, tedious process. Does that need to change? Yes, but I don't see True or Thomas or Don Lemon or any of them working to change the laws. We're working to break the laws. We have laws in this country for a reason. So you follow them. If you don't like them, then you do the hard work of getting people to represent you and go change those laws. But so far, you haven't done anything except you bitch and bitch and bitch. And then you
to me, this is the first step, Rick. This is the first step in having a truly honest election, right? Like truly unequivocal, non-debatable, honest election is by getting rid of all the people that shouldn't be allowed to vote. And then we show up and we'll see. It's that simple.
Yeah. Well, they're afraid to really, because the truth will set people free. And if they can keep us in chaos and they can keep the city, they broke into that church today. And and now people, but even little tiny Timmy Waltz is saying he's against them going into people's places of worship. So even he stood up on that one. But they're doing things like this, and we as Americans have to stand up to this and stop. Which is why, Benny, I'm really glad you came on here because more people. There's a ton of people in Eugene who agree with you, and I can see them all over the page commenting. I bet you there's more because I'll just bet you there's more than that. You know what I mean?
There's many more. There's many more, Rick, but they're so afraid to come out just the same as I am. I'm afraid to come speak my mind because of the idiots like you see in the feed.
Oh God. So here's Diana Vines McCloskey. True Jordan, he was basically ran out of Eugene. I was ran out of Eugene because I'm a big
Yeah.
dick. Yeah, right, Diana. You're so full of shit. It isn't even funny. I wasn't
Yeah.
run out of Eugene. I left because you were so stupid. I
Right.
couldn't do the pandemic mask thing anymore. And my wife and I said, you know what? We're out of here. Don't
Yeah.
spread your stupid rumors. I was ran out of Eugene. I got the
Classic.
best news right. Oh my God. That is just so funny. But
I
at
mean,
least they're
heaven
here.
forbid
I'm
you
glad the
move
trolls are
someplace.
here.
Heaven forbid you move someplace where there's like-minded individuals and
Well,
in your retirement years.
well, we actually have some really interesting in Montana. There's a lot of very nice liberal people here. There's still
Right.
like people were in Oregon 30 years ago where you can talk and have a conversation. Nobody
Sure.
cares whether you voted for Biden or Bush or
Whoever.
Obama or
Yeah.
Trump. I say, it's like, and you could see it coming there. Oh, like-minded racist. Yeah, because we consider white a race as well as black and brown. And you look like you're pretty white there, True, from your little tiny picture. Do you think? What do you hope? I want to ask you about something else too. What do you think
Yeah.
is going on with Greenland? I don't know what to think of it.
Oh,
I don't.
I'm not 100% sure. I thought that I have friends that served in that region, okay, years ago.
Oh,
At one
seriously?
point,
Oh, wow.
it was said that there was 18 bases. I've heard 17 bases. I don't know, but I know that there's definitely a presence. Okay, now we're down to one. The idea of protecting the Northwest Passage is obviously crucial. Do we need to own it? Is the Kingdom of Denmark just doing a power trip and they don't want to give it up? I mean, I believe that those people would be okay with getting a $500,000 check, every resident there, and then they get to vote. They get the passport to come to the States. I mean, if I would lived in Greenland, I'd think that's pretty cool. I don't know. But like I said, I'm not a resident of Greenland. It looks like a power trip between the Kingdom of Denmark and the United States, and nothing more than that.
Yeah,
I don't think we should bully our way into it per se, but if we could tariff our way in, that might be all right.
Yeah, I'm not in the secret meetings to know how strategic this is or anything like that. So
Sure.
I try to watch. I try not to jump out like Thomas or True over here and just
Sure.
blab my mouth on stuff I don't know. But I've been researching it, and I know they have their reasons. But I just think there's so much else going on, and I'm becoming super big on like America first. You know what I mean? Like,
So
we need to take care of the people in this
100%.
country first.
Well, I mean, if people are worried about spending $58 billion on Greenland, which would give every resident $1 million, then they should be really concerned about the $185 billion we spend on welfare benefits and healthcare benefits for illegals.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, when you got people like, look what your health costs, my health costs. I mean,
Yeah.
they're astronomical. And
It's
it's
crazy.
partially because we've got all these people on the dole who don't even belong here. And
Right.
and here's what I don't understand either, Benny, and maybe you can help me with this. Why
Sure.
do no other country, if True and some of his friends got their marijuana together and they went out and yeah, man, we're gonna go, let's just go to Switzerland and we're just gonna live here, their asses would be kicked out of there so fast. They would never get the treatment that they're not going to get a 5-star hotel to stay in.
There is no nation on the face of God's green earth that would accept even 1 million idiots there, let alone tens of millions.
No.
It was just not happening.
No, and even Mexico. I mean,
Not
Canada, Mexico, all of our neighbors, they don't let you in. And for some reason, these far left extremists, True and Thomas and their pals, think that this is okay, and that everywhere we go, it's what it is. It's a lack of education.
It truly is. There's whether it's lack of experience. lack of experience, lack of education, lack of common sense, or just straight brainwashing. Like some of these people I really feel sorry for, quite honestly. Like what do you call it when somebody sees something, hears something, reads something and still doesn't believe it?
Yeah.
A left-wing lunatic, right?
Somebody just said on here that the reason Eric Jensen said we have to make deals for minerals. That's why they want Greenland, and also for as a strategic point
security.
For
sure.
Stuff. Have you ever been to Greenland?
No, not myself.
My wife and I were in Europe last year, and we stopped there because you can now do this thing where they'll let you stay over a night. Like on an airplane, you just do an overnighter. But oh my God, Benny, it was so. I mean, one beer was like $12. I mean, like a cheap city beer. And
so the beer is $12, but so is an acre of land.
We stayed at a hotel, and then you get there, and it was nice. It wasn't bad. It wasn't like the best hotel, but it was nice. But then you get there, and they go, oh, and by the way, there's no parking.
Right.
Where the hell do I put my car? So you had to go park your car somewhere and then keep moving it to different sites where you park for free. It was, I mean, we loved it. It was really beautiful, but it was so expensive. I don't think I'd go back. It was just, I couldn't afford it,
Well, there's something that, would be kind of attractive to have, I guess, northeastern Alaska or whatever they're going to call it. I don't know, but it'd be cool to have something, give those people some sort of, I mean, I don't know if they even want it, but it seems like there's enough benefits strategically for the U.S. and economically for the residents. It kind of makes sense for the parties involved other than the kingdom, right? So I think that's the only real hang up, isn't it? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes there's things Trump does that I just want to roll my eyes and go, oh, okay. And then
I do have to say I had the eye roll moment when he said that. Admittedly, he did say the Russians and the Chinese are in the Northwest Passage with battleships and submarines.
Yeah.
And so then they send JD Vance and Rubio up there and they go, well, it wasn't exactly like that. So, I mean, is he trolling? Is it propaganda? Is a little bit of both? Whatever.
Well, I think what people can't argue, and then Thomas and Zell will come up with their their numbers, but he's a good businessman. And yes, he's gone bankrupt before. Most good businessmen have. Most people fail a lot more than they succeed. And so he knows how to negotiate, which most people, especially on the liberal side, don't understand how to negotiate, because they think, you don't give away everything you're doing. You throw out an idea, because of what you really do. You throw out an idea and then you work your way around, and then lots of times the deal comes out completely different. But Democrats don't do that. You got Biden and his administration, and I mean, they're the worst.
Rick, you would have to start off with having the conversation.
Yes.
You would have to have an intelligent conversation first if you're ever going to achieve any kind of results in anything. I don't care whether it's at home with your family or wife, your business, or politically, it doesn't matter. You got to start off with intelligent conversation. If you can't do it, then you're just stuck as a left-wing liberal.
Drew wants me to name a good businessman who's been bankrupt 6 times. I would name Donald Trump. And Drew, how many businesses have you run into the ground? Oh, Tara has, according to NBC, she had some figures. It was 17,000. Where was that?
CNN, believe it or not, CNN's actually had a couple of really good polls recently. I mean, honest polls recently, but it took a lot of beating up for them to start coming out with honest polls, but they've had some decent ones.
They have a guy on there that does statistics, and he's not right wing or left wing. He just gives it to them, because sometimes they look at him like, oh shit, you know who I'm talking about, right?
That's who I'm talking about. I really like him.
Yeah, he's smart. Well, he didn't come from there in the industry. He does. Yeah. It's so funny. So Benny, overall, do you think there's more people in Oregon? I think just from, not like I take K-Val's little survey on the air, too
Well,
serious. But it gives you a feel, because I
let me
think there's
ask
a
you
lot of people
this.
in Oregon afraid to say anything, and they're afraid to speak up to dorks like Drew and Thomas and people like this,
So
because they're just bullies. These people are
if
just
you
bullies.
live if you live on the east side of I-5, you speak your mind, you share your opinions and your faith and everything openly. If you live west of I-5, you either have to be a closet conservative for fear of retaliation
Yep.
or canceling, or you join the radical left wing loons. And there has to be a conversation, or there has to be more people. I speak openly with my friends all the time, but it's my peer group. And
Right.
so we definitely are about a 50-50 split, but we're still friends.
Yeah. Well, that's how it works. True. Hey, True, I told you the 70% was Kristi Noem. Do you not listen? I mean, do you have a hearing dysfunction? I do. But Kristi Noem, she was releasing those figures to the media this morning in a meeting. God.
Yeah, I mean, I know people hate to hear that that they support child exploitation or murder or rape, but if you're opposing the enforcement of our immigration policies, if you're not supporting it, then you're supporting by default these criminals, these gang members, and these people that rape kids or exploit kids. And
what surprises me too is how many of these white liberal women are out there who are so pro-choice and anti-abortion, or
DEI,
pro-choice and anti-rape, and these are people who would stand up against rape for anything. And here's most of these gang members, 70%, according to Kristi Noem, 70% are predators of children and women. So they're raping children and women, and they're pedophiles. And yet, so these people are standing up for those people by doing what they're doing, because they're not thinking through the whole thing. They're looking at this little picture. We hate ICE. We're told to hate ICE, and this is our only message we have. When in fact, you hate the very people who are taking people off the streets who you used to say you didn't like. That's so freaking weird.
Well, it is weird. And I guess part of the problem is that they supported the open Biden border policy.
Yeah.
So if you support that policy and you bring these people in with the guys that you're going to take care of all these folks, well, now shit hits the fan, because they're actually mostly criminals. If it's a 70-30 split, I'd be willing to say it's going to be 70-30 across the board.
I think the whole attempt with everything with ICE and everything they're doing is all to create chaos. And you know what I think is interesting, Benny? I'd love to take this to like a Dr. Peterson or somebody, Jordan Peterson.
Absolutely. I love that man.
I do too. And they all hate him because he's got them all figured out. But what I'd love to see is how, if you are out and are creating chaos, your brain and your mind starts to buy into the chaos, and then you are living in your own chaos. So you're creating something that you're forcing on other people, but you're actually, the thing you're not seeing is you're becoming the very chaos that you're exhibiting. And
so that's really interesting, because I've recently got some state certifications that had to do with mental health and peer support and peer navigation and things, because of some things I'm involved with in the community. And they talk about like ruminations and stuff quite a bit, right? Where people will dwell and ruminate so much that they create the very thing that they do not want to experience or feel, right?
Yeah.
So the point being is, in my view, I believe that it truly is a mental health crisis. Yep. Did it start during COVID by locking people down and not allowing people out? I mean, that didn't help. It sure didn't help.
Yeah, you had people on the fringe, and then all the government had to do was, and Kate Brown had come in, and Joe Biden and and they just had to come in and put fear into people, and then you
Yeah,
use that fear to then have people telling on their neighbors. I wonder how
right.
embarrassed people are that were calling in on their neighbors. See, and they can't admit they were wrong now, because then they
Sure.
actually did that shit. I mean, they actually were
Well,
shunning people for not
but
doing.
the sick part of it is, Rick, is that many of those people had all the intention in the world to hurt those people. So do they really feel bad? Are they really ashamed of it, or
Well,
are they just
well, but see,
afraid
what
of the
I'm saying is,
accountability?
I'm
Are they
saying,
afraid of
Benny, is
accountability or above their actions? I don't know which.
what I'm saying is, how do you go back? Like, how so many people, like, you look at the science now, it's saying the 6 feet apart was stupid. Keeping our kids out of school was absolutely ignorant. I mean, all of it's coming out that this was a big hoax. Did
Right.
it really happen? Yes. But you know what? All the drugs, ivermectin, and all the things that they made fun of could have, in fact, in some countries, did heal a ton of people. Lives could have been saved, but instead, more people died because they used fear to cause people to then not allow you to use things that actually could have worked. So, how do you go back now if you had a moment of clarity and go, wow, I fucked up? And look at all those people who I said Rick killed, but really I'm more responsible than they are. You can't. How do you reckon with that? Those
You
of us
won't,
who didn't fall for it
and
have
so
nothing to
you can't,
be
because
sad about.
what whatever it is that they feed their brain that makes whatever dopamine hit they get off of being radical, and this is very true, it's no different than a drug addict. A drug addict uses a drug that triggers dopamine and they get addicted to that feeling. I feel that the lunatic wing is not much different than that. By being radical and creating chaos or controlling people, it definitely triggers a dopamine response and a certain feeling. They almost can't even control it once they've been so indoctrinated for so long. There's almost no turning back without serious mental health and mental health help, let alone, I mean, awareness. You can forget it, because none of them are going to self-reflect enough to even consider that it might be a mental health issue.
Right. But I think I think this was a problem that was coming. And then when they did what they did, the government did what they did with COVID, it exacerbated the situation, and people just went nuts because they were telling on their neighbors. And and now, even now, I mean, I think all of us got a little PTSD from it. I was sitting in a movie theater the other day, and this man right behind me is just coughing and sneezing up a storm, and I'm like, 20 years ago or 10 years ago, I would have thought, oh, he's got a cold. I wouldn't have thought much about it. But now I'm
Nothing
like,
ever.
so I go home and I get out my nebulizer and I put some hydrogen peroxide in it, and I go and kill the bugs.
Yeah. That's
Hey,
funny you
Benny,
mentioned that, because I'm on the peroxide thing. I'll put the sterile sinus thing. I do that, but
yeah,
it
yeah.
does
I
it
tell
does
you
help.
what, my wife had it and she didn't
Yeah,
start it soon enough. I
yeah,
started it as soon as she got it, and I never
yeah,
got it. So I'm a huge believer in that.
yeah.
Hey, Benny, this has been super fun. I need to start just having people on like that and get people a little riled. But I appreciate you having the guts to tell your story. Come on here and let me ask you some questions and stuff like that, and put up with some of these people on here.
Well, I
And
appreciate your
yet
support
again,
too, Rick.
for Benny, I told him to dress like this because for his own safety. Are you going to be able to get rid of this mail-in voting in Oregon?
I
Eric, it
hope.
looks like it could be endangered. No, hydrogen peroxide is, well, True. Don't use hydrogen peroxide because you need to just keep masking. True, you should wear 6 masks and stay away from all people. And I think it would do everyone a big favor, actually. And I'm not a doctor. I just play one on my show. Um, but you know what? Back to Eric's real question, not Thomas and Drew's fake questions. I think the vote by mail is in serious jeopardy because the Secretary of State has to take 800,000 invalid ballots that they keep sending out every year. I've had
Right.
people on my show who gets 4 ballots a year for his 3 kids that moved out and live in
Yeah.
other states and have notified the state that they're not here anymore, and his
Yeah.
dead mother. And he keeps getting those ballots. And that story's over and over and over again. And also, Trump is pushing this. And I heard an interview with the Secretary of State, and he actually said something like he may pivot and we may have to change if this lawsuit goes anywhere. So
Right.
that would be a great blessing for Oregon, because I think people, if they had a brain, and I'm not talking about a couple of certain people on here, but I'm talking about if you looked at 40 years and there hasn't been a Republican governor, and
Yeah.
only two executives in the last couple of years were actually Republicans. So you've had basically 40 years of only Democrats being elected. Wouldn't that, if you're arrogant, you can say, well, that's because we all are Democrats. Oregon is not a Democrat state. It's run by the urban valley, but all the people in Eastern Oregon. So you got a bunch of people who feel completely underrepresented, and people like that live in urban Oregon, like people like, I would just say True and Thomas. They don't give a shit if those people have a voice, because as long as they win, that's all that really matters. But a lot of people are starting to get the message and starting to understand. So I think we're going to see some changes, Eric. I hope.
I hope so. I hope we get rid of the mail-in ballot, and I hope that we can, like Eric was saying, that we could get rid of that entirely. Now, so part of the problem with those 800,000 ballots, though, is it's not just going to be like illegals or people that are dead or whatever. A lot of those are going to be Republicans that didn't show up to vote because we have felt so underrepresented in all these years. A lot of people just didn't show up because it felt like the vote didn't matter. Yeah. And so it's going to be critical. Absolutely critical to get out, register, convince people to register, re-register, whatever, because they're not going to help us.
No. And in the last election, when Trump won, but Oregon, voted more red than it's ever voted, there was still, I can't remember the exact number, and I don't know what my source is, but it was somewhere like, it was between 100 and 200,000 Republicans didn't even bother to vote.
Right.
So which is voted, and I get it. I understand why they're frustrated, but I get it. But you have to participate, because people are onto it, and I think it's going to change.
It's time.
So True and I agree on something. I just want to make this point because this is really awesome, because I'm going to give him a dopamine hit, because somebody just told me every time you mention their names, they're getting a dopamine hit. So I feel like Thomas and True, that's a funny way to spell true. But I feel like I'm making your night. You guys, you like me, because I'm making you guys feel like you got big wieners and that you're big, important people and stuff. And you're not, but you feel like that because you're getting your name. But anyway, I just wanted to point out that he said I should drink raw milk, and I do. So, yeah, I use hydrogen peroxide and not marijuana, and I drink raw milk. So we got something in common.
And I have ivermectin.
We're practically brothers now. I mean, we are practically brothers.
I've got a backstock of ivermectin if you want to join the club.
Hey, Benny, thanks again for having the guts to do this. I appreciate it. I'm glad you called. And
thank you.
Stay in touch with me.
I will, absolutely. You know where to get a hold of me.
I do, buddy. See you later.
Thank you. Take care. God bless.
Yeah, you too. So, yeah, we never met till today. He asked me for some advice, and I said, I don't think I'd go on a TV station, maybe. And then I thought, well, why don't I just have him on here? And that was actually a very interesting conversation. And it brought out the trolls. So we always appreciate a good troll now and then. There's a huge difference between protesting and rioting or impeding. I agree, Kathy. And I see a lot of rioting and a lot of impeding, and not much peaceful protest. I was thinking about that today. If Martin Luther King were here today, everybody always wants to say what he would do. Like, oh, he'd support this. I don't know that he would. He was a peaceful man. He wanted peaceful protests. He didn't go out and destroy people's property like the BLM riots did. He didn't go, and he wouldn't stand up for January 6th either, because property was destroyed and a woman's life was taken. But BLM riots, how many? I think it was over a dozen people were killed. A lot more damage. And where are they now? They took all the money and ran. So you who stood up for BLM, you actually were helping criminals, and they took off and went off with their money. Great idea. Wendy, thank you. Kid protesting, shame on their parents. Oh, I think they should be able to protest, Brian. It's kids that are going out and destroying property and rioting. Shame on them. I'm not a big parent blamer. I think there's a lack of parental guidance, yes, But, at some point, you're your own person and you have to make the right choices. Yeah, Deb, exactly. Martin Luther King wanted peace. And these people protesting, they don't want peace. They don't want any of that. They just want to be popular. They want to have a purpose. They want it for most of us, creating a better world is our purpose. For them, destroying it and causing chaos is their purpose. That's what they get off on. And I'm done. And I think most of us are done with it. So we need to start speaking out like he did, like Benny did, and saying what we feel. When you're with your friends and they say, oh, yeah, well, nobody would vote for Trump. And I did, because I think he's a better leader than Joe Biden. And remind them, you put a man in office who was struggling with dementia and probably wasn't even signing the papers. And you still stand up for that. And you think we picked the wrong guy. At least we're getting something done. That's who you hired for the job to be president of the United States. And you want me to throw my trust level at you? Not going to happen. Oh, Drew, we're creating a wonderful world, and it's turning on people like you. And that's what bothers you. And that's why you're so angry. And that's why you have Trump derangement syndrome. And that's why you're so pissed off. But get over it, because there's a new America coming. Why is it that you don't like the term "make America great again"? That's what I don't get. I'm not a MAGA, but I sure want to make America great again. What do you want to make it? A toilet bowl? You want to make it a place where people who aren't supposed to be here and have every access legally to get here, but cheat? So we want to be a nation of people who cheat, a nation that allows pedophiles and rapists into our country to hurt our women. That's what you want? Well, that's not what the rest of us want. And according to the polls at KBAL, my sponsor, my source, 85% of people don't agree with the sanctuary state bullshit. 85%. That's KBAL. True, did you get that? Write that down. Make sure you write that down so you'll have it. There you go. Write that down. There you go. Yeah. Where's the proof? Where's the proof? A lot of people say, oh, yeah, Trump's a pedophile. No convictions. You can call people anything you want, but you got to have a conviction to make it. Otherwise, you're kind of slandering. But, you do what you got to do because you want your message. All right, you guys. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Share this on your page so other people can see what the folks like them think, because that's really important that people see you're a propagandist. People who are the biggest propagandists always blame the others. That's great, mister. Oh, I love it. Oh, you know what? Sometimes stupidity is just so much fun to laugh at. Have a good night, you guys. See you later. Share it on your page. Make our little paroles famous.